Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, beautiful soul family, and welcome to Weekly Wisdom and Insights, your home for spiritually guided transformation and empowerment. I am your host, DearJames, and together with the unseen, Spirit, Source, and Symphony, we look at the current energies, the intuitive wisdom and insights, and we go as guided. And action-packed as always, so we're going to jump right in. And before we do, we're going to be working with the SUN-MERCURY CAZIMI, powerful chart astrologically, and also this trifecta effect. Welcome, Olivia. Welcome, Kiki. Welcome, Alicia. So bear these in mind. This trifecta effect is number 5 from the unseen, but you're going to see how literally things are occurring in threes in these current energies for this episode, and they're going to arc out. But let's start out with 2 things before we jump into they're all good things, but here we are. It's from John 14:12. I tell you the truth. Anyone who believes in me will do the same works I have done, and even greater works, because I am going to be with the Father. And there's this aspect of remembering and reminding ourselves of our innate divinity, the power within, that which resides within us, that flows through us, soul source connection, source, the divine, and how these works, whoever believes, these works are possible within us as well. We start with that, and then I'm going to astrologer Chani Nicholas, and this is from her weekly number 76. Say the thing. Send the text, the email, the invite. Speak now and do not hold the peace. This is the moment to be loud and deliberate about the message you need to deliver. Mercury's CAZIMI on Thursday, this is tomorrow, cuts through the retrograde static and brings a razzle-dazzle to your communications. And also, Venus's shift into Cancer and meet up with Saturn and Neptune reminds us that clarity is kindness in all exchanges. It's about being clear. It's about saying what you mean what you say, take the initiative, take the leap of faith, say the thing that you need to say, send the text, the email, the invite. And she concludes with, if you don't state your needs, no holds barred, how can you expect them to be met? So in essence, remaining silent isn't going to work. So that which you're seeking, speak it, put it out there. So we begin there. These are overtones. But now we're going to move to, let's look at the main energies. And the main energies is 7, 30, 9, 19, 10, and 1. Notice 10 and 30, this triplicate. It's about clarity perceived, but we're going to work with 10, treading, cautious advance, because the first thing from the unseen with these energies, these current energies, main energies, is coming full circle, ready to advance. So we are coming full circle. And by the way, that is the show. 3 past shows the unseen is referencing in today's show. The first one is Coming Full Circle, Ready to Advance. It was a show from May 10th of 2023. The moral of the story is that we are literally at this moment, this precipice. We've been talking about that triangle of revolution, what's on the other side, and that we're coming full circle and we're ready to advance. And there's an aspect about August, autumn, like August is going to be powerful, and beautifully so, because the two benefics in astrology, Venus and Jupiter, are both going to be in Cancer. And so you can see there's going to be a trifecta effect. We'll see how that all plays out. But with these, we're going to be working with triples, trifecta. Then let's look at the astrological chart for this Sun-Mercury CAZIMI that is occurring on the 31st of July. And remember, these energies arc out. The interior of this chart, the red, the blue, I mean, there are so many squares, oppositions, trines, mini trines, grand trines, kite formations. I mean, this chart is chock full of multiple things happening at one time that are going to be playing out. This is where the trifecta effect is coming from. And so when I looked at this chart and I looked at the current energies, I heard 3 things: a standing O, a hall of mirrors, and a do not enter. So there are going to be a standing O, a standing ovations. There are going to be aspects in our lives and so forth where literally you feel like you are receiving a standing ovation. And then there's also this kind of, let me go back to the chart, there's this aspect of illusion and delusion, this, a hall of mirrors aspect. And then you see where the crisscross, the big cross in the center, and it looks like this, almost like this beautiful opening in the background, and the kite and like a floor mirror standing up. And we have been speaking about this a lot. And then that a do not enter. The old you, the old us, the old paradigm, the old way, a do not enter. It does not enter the new. And so again, we recognize what's playing out on the world stage. We're witnessing it. We're seeing it. This cleaving and clinging, the desperation to cling to a patriarchal Piscean era way of life. However, the unseen is being very clear with us. That dog don't hunt. It's a do not enter. And so again, we're going to have, and there's this, a hall of mirrors, the illusion, the delusion of it. So be very mindful right now, and especially we're arcing out towards this, and the days to come, you'll see we're coming full circle, we're ready to advance. So be brutally honest with yourself. We must face the past. We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We've talked about that a lot. However, we learn from the past and we take the purity, the best of the best, and we take it forward with us. And this is where it will play into our main theme heavily. And so we're going to go there. So let's go to our main theme, and we'll put a big bow on all of this. And it's about 2 gates, 2 trees, 2 houses. God is trying to tell you something. Now that God is trying to tell you something it's the song, it was the lyrics that just popped into my head from The Color Purple. We'll get to that in a minute. But what we're looking at, and there's literally this image, and you're also going to see a theme in this week's show. There's almost like a fairy tale aspect of the images, which is something absolutely brand new. That's never happened before on Weekly Wisdom and Insights. And the point will be that a fairy tale is very idyllic. It's the ideal of how we can live life. However, it also always shows us the shadow, the choices. And that is what's happening with 2 gates, 2 trees, 2 houses. God is trying to tell you something. This is from LarryO'Donnell.com. 2 gates, 2 trees, 2 houses. One of his favorite things about studying the Bible is Jesus' illustrations. He was a terrific storyteller, often using parables to convey important messages in a memorable way. Take, for example, Matthew chapter 7, when Jesus compared 2 types of gates, a narrow gate and a wide gate, 2 types of trees, one that produces good fruit, the other bad fruit, and finally 2 houses, one built on rock, the other on sand. These stories are actually warnings to us. I would say, in lieu of warnings, yes, they're a warning. However, they're an opportunity. They are a massive opportunity to awaken to consciousness and how we go about living our lives. And just to bring up the main image again, note that when I put in 2 trees, 2 houses, 2 gates, and this image comes up, it's of a singular house, if you will. However, it's the physical house. We, the soul, the human, is the celestial house, the spiritual house. There's this big, massive moon, that shining star, the star, 2 trees, double gates, 2 gates. And if you really look closely, you will see a for sale sign. And there's a message in this, which you will see about 2 gates, 2 trees, 2 houses, this message from Master Jesus. Are you for sale? Is your soul for sale? Are you selling your soul to the devil? Are you selling your soul for the masks, the identities, the labels, the material items, for these things that aren't worth a hill of beans? Or is your spiritual house in order? So let's dive in. LarryO'Donnell.com. 2 gates. Beginning in Matthew 7:13, Jesus tells us that there are 2 gates or 2 paths that we can follow as we live our lives. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it. For the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. In this passage, which is part of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is speaking to a large crowd about how the Jewish religious leaders were leading them astray. These leaders and many of the Jewish people were more interested in appearing outwardly to be religious by practicing rituals that others could see. They were using the wide gate, which signifies a dependence on ourselves and obtaining our own self-righteousness and salvation through trying to do things outwardly to impress others, rather than total dependence upon the divine, and recognizing that everything good is a gift from them. So there's this aspect of, remember, ego, mind, personality. This is where we've been. Ego, mind, personality, human. And this corrupted version of the divine masculine, this shadow aspect. And that when we're leading with that aspect, it's the wide path. It leads us astray. These Jewish religious leaders and their followers totally missed that Jesus was the Messiah who was written about in the Old Testament. They didn't recognize that they needed a savior, as they thought they were righteous enough by doing outwardly things. The wide gate represents our culture today, characterized by being self-dependent, self-absorbed, me, 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 and wanting to appear outwardly better than everyone else. And this is what happens, this whole thing from a political perspective, worldwide. They divide humanity, or the earthly divine, the divine, instead of bringing them together, lifting everyone up, amplifying and magnifying their light. So it's easier to demean me, and to separate, and then outwardly appearances. The narrow gate that Jesus was referring to is a personal relationship with God, with the divine, not doing a bunch of religious rituals and sacraments to try and earn your way to heaven. It means not wasting any more time and energy trying to appear outwardly in a way to be accepted by the culture, but rather asking the Holy Spirit to live within you, to change your heart and transform you into the person God, the divine, made you to be. God, the divine, sees the inward appearance of our heart, not our outward appearance to others. This goes back to the number 42, that divine, biblical divine number 42. It goes back to Mot in Egyptian times, weighing the heart against the feather. This correlates with the new. That dog don't hunt. The old dog doesn't hunt. This ego mind personality, this wide gate, this, me, it doesn't work in the new. And so best to be proactive, be ahead of the curve, be at the tip, not the tail cone, so that as it shifts, you're riding the wave, not being pummeled by it. And this point comes where we are right now. It comes into our mantra, casting shadows and light, I heal myself from within. So see, it's about how the divine sees the inward appearance of our heart, not our outward appearance to others. So casting shadows and light, that is our third show that the Unseen brought up. It's from June 25th of 2025. So we have Coming Full Circle, Ready to Advance. That's from May 10th of 2023. We have Casting Shadows and Light from June 25th, 2025. It's about we are comprised of both shadow and light. And it's how we harness those energies and how we step up. And you'll see with hexagram 10, treading, careful advance. It's about choosing the narrow path. It's about soul source connection, defying the exterior, if you will, to stay in what the Unseen is saying, brutal alignment with self, with source. Self meaning source, soul. So here we have this not wasting appearances, outward appearances to others. Which gate are you trying to pass through? The narrow gate of a deep personal relationship, or the wide gate of acceptance by today's culture, which Jesus told us leads to destruction? We're talking about a message on the Sermon on the Mount from 2,000 years ago. It's as relevant today as it was then. LarryO'Donnell.com continues, 2 trees. Now let's look at Jesus' second warning opportunity as communicated through the comparison of 2 trees. Beware of the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Grapes are not gathered from thorn bushes, nor figs from thistles. So are they. So every good tree bears good fruit, but the bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, nor can a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So then you will know them by their fruits. And there's an aspect about this. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Ultimately, from Book of Revelations, and this is a spiritual conversation we're having, not a religious one, a spiritual one. There are ultimately 2 eternal paths that the Book of Revelation speaks to. Eternal kingdom of heaven, lake of fire. So in this parable, it's Matthew 7, 15, 20. It's about, you will know them by their fruits, and every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. It doesn't go on. It doesn't live forever. It lives forever in a lake of fire. You don't want that. You want the good fruit, the good tree. You want the narrow gate. In the same way, a tree cannot deceive for very long. Pardon me. Yes. Sorry. Let me back up. It's Mercury retrograde. I got to stay with my place. Jesus talked about false prophets and wolves that appear as sheep before he talked about the 2 different types of trees. What he was talking about is deception. Deception is our key word. So let me just bring that up. And here's this image, deception. And it's almost like the wicked forest, if you will, and deception. The action of deceiving someone or oneself. The act of causing someone to accept as true or valid what is false or invalid. The act of hiding the truth, especially to get an advantage. Deceit. The act or practice of deceiving, lying, misleading, or otherwise hiding or distorting the truth. Knowingly deceiving another or causing another to be deceived by any false or misleading representation, by withholding information, by preventing another from acquiring information, or by any other conduct, act, or omission that creates, confirms, or perpetuates a false impression in another. And so we have this act of deception, or this keyword deception, and it's being very prominently placed in the 2 gates, 2 trees, 2 houses. So with LarryO'Donnell.com, what he was talking about is deception. The false prophet is one who appears to be speaking for God, the divine, but he is a deceiver. A false prophet doesn't speak for God at all and tries to deceive you and pull you away from God. So that's what a false prophet will do. And so discernment, to recognize deception, to know, is it good fruit or bad fruit? Is it the wide gate or the narrow gate? In the same way, a tree can't deceive for very long. Once the season for bearing fruit arrives, you'll know what kind of tree it is. Jesus is warning us to beware of people who appear on the outside to be religious, spiritual, religious, and perhaps even appear to be followers, but are not and will lead us astray. Welcome, Colleen. We can never really know anyone else's heart, and we're not called to judge others. We can observe others, this is discernment, however, and if they are trying to sway you into unbiblical beliefs or take you off your spiritual path, your soul source connection, if there isn't evidence of good fruit and saving faith in their life, be careful not to be drawn into false beliefs by them. Even more importantly, we can reflect on our own lives. What fruit do you most often produce? And this is all tying into that, everything's coming at us head on. We can't bury our heads in the sand. It's brutal truth. And this Mercury Sun CAZIMI, it's where Mercury, the planet Mercury, the messenger to the gods, is in the seat, in the heart of the sun. So it's in the throne chamber. And it burns away. It's like the temperance card. It's in the forge, and it's burning away all the impurities. And so we're being asked to look at which gate are we choosing? Which tree, what fruit are we producing? And lastly, 2 houses. Jesus' final warning in this passage is communicated through a comparison of 2 houses, one built on rock, one built on sand. And note in the image for the main theme, as I bring it up here, this house is built on stone. It's on a mountain. The beautiful sun the moon revealing, nurturing us. The 2 trees. There's also a well on the left side. The well, it's about diving to the depths of our soul, of ourselves, to reach the nourishment that we need. It's not superficial, because as you'll see as we continue, they won't last. That will not last. The wide gate, the bad fruit, will not last. It will not satiate. 2 houses. So we have this, Jesus' final warning in the passage is communicated through a comparison of 2 houses, one built on rock, one built on sand. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them may be compared to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and slammed against that house, and yet it did not fall, for it had been founded on the rock. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and slammed against that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. Jesus' final warning, opportunity, and challenge to us in this chapter is that it's up to each of us to exercise our free will and choose between life with Him, with the divine, or a life of destruction, separation, destruction that leads to destruction. Jesus is saying that anyone who knows that there will be a coming judgment of all mankind, but ignores the teachings, choosing to live their life focused on their own selfish desires and acceptance by the culture, is as foolish as a person who builds their house on sand. And no matter your religious beliefs or denomination and so forth, the moral of the story that Master Jesus was sharing in this Sermon on the Mount is the truth of the truth of the matter. So no matter how you ascribe religiously or spiritually, foundationally, the message is the narrow gate, the tree that bears good fruit, great fruit, in the house that is built upon stone, not sand. And finally, if you notice in Jesus' parable, both builders were exposed to Jesus' teachings, but only one obeyed what he heard. Jesus called the first builder wise. He called the second builder foolish, emphasizing that he would suffer hardships not only in this life, but he would also suffer eternal separation from the divine. The parables in Matthew 7 remind us of what an honor and privilege it is to have Master Jesus, the divine, soul source connection, as our rock. And so, again, there's a very powerful spiritual message here of divine right, divine alignment, of eternal outcome. And again, yes, this has been talked about for 2,000 plus years. However, it doesn't make it any less true. And we've talked about, it was Shirley MacLaine on her spiritual journey, and she had this epiphany, this recognition after much diving deep into the well of her spiritual journey. And she said, I came to realize if I've been here before and I'll be here again, what I do in this lifetime matters. And I just want to jump quickly to, it's from Richard Rudd, The Pulse. It's Gene Key 33. Welcome, Elizabeth. The gene key for this week is Gene Key 33, the final revelation. Richard Rudd says, this week we contemplate Gene Key 33. Traditionally, this is about going inwards into retreat to access the deep wisdom of revelation. It's going into the well of ourselves, making this deep dive. Make some time this week for your own inner voyage and see what emerges. And he has this quote, when you can only see one life, you really have no sense of perspective. You may even think that this life is all there is, just this one life. How stingy that version of the world seems. Here you are, you get one life, that's it. It's not very generous, is it? No wonder our world is so selfish today, because so many believe this to be the truth. However, once the memory of revelation has awakened inside of you, suddenly it's all very, very different. And this is what Shirley MacLaine experienced when she did her deep spiritual dive. When she wanted to know. She was visceral about her journey. She wanted to know, is it real? Is it happy hooey? And she came to that realization of her divine essence and that what she does in this lifetime matters. And Richard Rudd concludes with, dare to be divine. And that's what Master Jesus was saying on the Sermon on the Mount in this 2 gates, 2 trees, 2 houses. Dare to be divine. Do not be misled by outward appearances or keeping up with the Joneses or spiritual people or religious people, rituals where we don't walk the talk. because they're hollow. They're houses built on sand. It's the wide gate. It's the tree with bad fruit. It will not last. It will not sustain, and it will be eternally separated from source, from the divine. So, powerful theme, this beautiful main theme, and just bringing the image up again, because there is this idyllic fairy tale aspect to this, but that's the point. It's idyllic. It's the highest ideal of who we are. And thus, here's this beautiful house that sits built upon a mountain, stone, has the well. It begs the question, am I for sale? Am I selling myself, for fame, for material gain, for whatever the case may be, that leads me astray from my soul source connection, from my highest purity, and the final revelation, Gene Key 33 from Richard Rudd. So now let's move to hexagram 10. We are working with hexagram 10. It's known as treading. Its action is cautious advance. So coming full circle, ready to advance. And this autumn, August, autumn, the fall as in autumn, there's this aspect here where it's literally kicking into gear. And it's this point where it's number 3 from the unseen. Awaken within. The soul emerges or re-emerges as the case may be. So again, depending on where you are in the awakening on your journey, awaken within. The soul emerges, re-emerges as the case may be. So, and this brings us to our first quote. Discover the pleasure of treading in life's mystery. This is by the master. So discover the pleasure of treading in life's mystery. It's about the soul source connection. It's about walking the narrow path. It's the narrow gate. And thereby discover the pleasure of life's mystery, of its mystery. This is from yijing.nl. Do not just fill in your duties or perform your rituals, but look always for the signs of their meaning. They are the omens which reveal the sense of life. So this is saying, don't just do things to do things. Recognize, don't just fill your duties or, perform your rituals, but rather look for the signs and the meaning. They are the omens which reveal the sense of life. When one can integrate these signs, sometimes small and hardly visible, but always rich in their soul, their life will be meaningful and rewarding. So when we integrate these signs, sometimes small and hardly visible, but always rich in their soul, their life will be meaningful and rewarding. It's because we've chosen the right path. We're bearing good fruit. Our house, soul house, not just our physical abode, but our vessel, our soul. It's built on stone, a solid foundation, and these things become meaningful and rewarding. When one's treading is strong and clear and decisive, one summons danger, but one also creates lasting values. Because when we do walk this path, this narrow path, it triggers people, it triggers others. It can be fear, it can be entitlement, it can be envy, but there's this, so when one's treading is strong and clear and decisive, one summons danger. People want to tear others down. They want to challenge what you're doing because they're envious or they're fearful. But one also creates lasting values. The soft and halfway is safer, but has only a short life with few accomplishments. Do not always show your convictions right away, though. Explore the situation, the ambiance, the feelings of the others. See, this is that, it's attributed to Master Jesus in the Bible, you need not cast pearls before swine. It's a very harsh statement, but it's nonetheless true. So it's saying, do not always just show your convictions right away. Explore the situation, the ambiance, the feelings of others. Read the room. And thus, find in every situation anew the best course of action, When you are doing something big or dangerous, first make sure it makes sense to do it. Discernment, inner wisdom, is this how you're being guided? Risk your life for a real goal, or if you feel you must. If the goal is not big enough, then it is better to not do it and not justify it. When one acts within one's abilities, no tiger will bite. A small thing done in a great way is great. That's Wallace D. Wattles, small acts in great ways. So it's about taking each step, listening, going as guided, listening. So a small thing done in a great way is great. A great thing done in a small way is small. Adapt your actions to what is possible, what is smart, what is good in a situation, and what is within your abilities. And remember, you're divine. And anything that's yours is yours. It's already yours. What's meant to be will be. And you're capable. So do not allow your ego, mind, personality, human, your shadow, that monkey mind chatter, to tell you you can't achieve something. Rather, listen to discern from your soul, is it in alignment with what I am to do? There's a difference. And when we're in alignment, it's green lights all the way. When you're getting red lights, there's a reason. Listen to them, but ensure that they're coming from your soul source connection, not your ego, mind, personality, meaning your past, your fears, anxieties, these old stories and scripts and labels and all that stuff. To live a real life means to be faithful to oneself and to follow one's own road. It's the small gate. It's the narrow gate. Out of reach of society, this road is straight. But in the world of people, one will have to defend it. Because again, people become envious. Why are you doing something that appears to be so, high and mighty, when all you're doing is you're being in alignment with your soul source connection? And it intimidates, it terrifies others. However, everyone has the opportunity, the ability, the divinity to do what you choose to do, which is the narrow gate, the house built upon stone, this tree of great fruit, beautiful fruit. So out of reach of society, this road is straight. But in the world of people, one will have to defend it. Hold on to it always. Moving simple and without pretensions, pure in your intentions and not needing anyone or leaning on anything not your own. That is the way to lead your life without being impaired or restricted. That is treading cautious advance. Cautious advance means conscientious awareness, eyes wide open, listening to soul source connection, going as guided. And yes, you may have to defend that when you are quote unquote striking out in a way that appears to be this narrow path, the path less traveled. Because again, it will trigger other people. But that's their trigger, not yours. So don't pick it up. This brings us to our second quote. The truth is not a sign that points to something beyond itself. It just is. This is a second quote from the master. And notice the sign with its arrow says Magic Kingdom. And again, there's this fairy tale forest in the background. And so the truth is not a sign that points to something beyond itself. It just is. The truth speaks for itself. And thus, and that Magic Kingdom, that truth, is you. It's within you. It's your soul. So now, hexagram 10 from selfgazer.com. Hexagram 10, known as Lu, in Chinese represents the principle of careful conduct and proper behavior. This hexagram is composed of the heaven trigram above and the lake trigram below, creating an image of treading carefully at the edge of a lake, symbolizing how one must proceed with awareness and proper conduct in challenging situations. These are challenging times. And so we walk with full awareness, full conscientiousness that we are on our soul source connection path. The upper trigram is heaven, composed of 3 solid lines, representing strength, power, and authority. The lower trigram is lake, composed of 1 broken line between 2 solid lines, representing joy, openness, and reflection. When these trigrams combine, they create a powerful metaphor for proper conduct. Heaven's strength above lake's joy suggests the need to maintain dignity and proper behavior while remaining cheerful and adaptable. This combination points to the importance of walking the correct path with both confidence and awareness. It's not getting sucked into the vortex. It's not being pulled off your true path. It's about knowing, connecting with your center, your soul. What's at your center? And you're going to see that coming up with Astrology by Lauren, with this SUN-MERCURY CAZIMI. In nature, hexagram 10 corresponds to walking carefully on thin ice or at the edge of deep water, representing the need for mindful progress in potentially dangerous situations. This physical metaphor represents the importance of proper conduct and careful attention to one's steps. The hexagram also represents the superior person who maintains proper conduct while treading difficult paths. This human dimension emphasizes the importance of dignity and appropriate behavior in challenging circumstances. The essence of hexagram 10, treading, cautious advance, is the wisdom of proper conduct and careful progress. This manifests as the importance of mindful behavior, the need for dignified conduct, the value of careful progress, the power of proper timing, the strength of appropriate action. These attributes combine to create a powerful symbol of correct conduct. The hexagram suggests a time when careful attention to behavior and progress is essential for success. And it brings us to our third quote. Treading shows the basis of character. One who treads does not stay. See, we don't remain stuck and stagnant. And in this, again, fairy tale image, the butterflies, there's a bench, but the bench is on wheels. So it's movable. And there's the lamppost, the two lampposts, this way. Which way are we moving or going? And the butterflies are guiding us. It's a higher octave of ourselves, of where we've been. And so you see how this treading and this cautious advance is about the harmony of everything within us aligning with the divine. Going as guided. This awaken within, the soul emerges, reemerges, as the case may be. Our third previous show, and it's number 2 from the unseen, is The Color Purple. This show was from July 17th, 2024. And they said, the unseen said, the color purple, the master weaver, revealed, re-examined. And this has to do with the Mercury and Sun CAZIMI. The Mercury is retrograde. This Neptune and Saturn retrograde. It's the color purple, the master weaver, revealed, re-examined. And the color purple, this is from digitalbible.ca. Beyond the power, royalty, and wealth, purple as a biblical symbol also extends into the realms of priesthood and spiritual interaction. Purple's presence in the priestly garments in Exodus alludes to this role, where it signifies the priesthood's honor, dignity, and spiritual service. Moreover, the color purple was a significant component of the curtain separating the Holy of Holies in the tabernacle from the rest of the sanctuary, also from Exodus. The color schema, including the purple, was believed to represent a heavenly vision given to Moses by God on Mount Sinai. This portrayal relates people to spiritual awareness, divine interaction, and God's magnificence apart from its earthly connotations of wealth and power. It also bridges the gap between God, the divine, and humanity, indicating an engagement initiated by the divine with the human domain. The color purple, as seen, is a potent symbol that weaves through biblical narratives, personifying power, authority, wealth, and spiritual understanding. Its rich, vivid hue harks back to the most ancient times when its production was an art available only to the powerful few, rendering it a symbol of exclusivity. It literally comes from a gland in a mollusk, and there's these tiny little sacs, and it takes, tens of thousands of them to extract this color, this dye, to make the color purple. In the Bible pages, however, it transcends earthly connotations, resonating with divine interaction, spiritual service, and the subtle reminders of God's grandeur. Transporting us back to biblical times, the narratives and stories adorned by this color provide a multidimensional lens to interpret and understand the divine-human relationship transparent through the scripture. Despite its complexity, the color purple paints a vivid celestial picture that awes and motivates all who delve into its profound significance. It's about sit with the color purple. The master weaver revealed, re-examined. Your soul, awakened within, the soul emerges, re-emerges, as the case may be. This symbol, purple, the color purple, that was given to humanity, to Moses, to humanity, from the divine, from God. And how does this color, when we sit or meditate with this color, what does it awaken within us? What does it remind us of? Where does it lead you? All of these converging. So we have our three now. And I just want to bring them back in really quickly. So the astrological influences, a standing O, a hall of mirrors, a do not enter. So again, where are we fooling ourselves or others? It's a hall of mirrors. The old does not enter the new. It's a do not enter. And then a standing ovation, a standing O. Where will we, you individually, collectively, where will we receive our standing O? Because we're coming full circle. We're ready to advance. And we have this color purple and this casting shadows and light, these past three shows. Now let's move to Astrology by Lauren. And she is talking about Chiron retrograde, it's just gone retrograde, and Mercury in the heart of the sun, the CAZIMI, and Mercury is also retrograde. She begins with a quote by Carl Sagan. For me, it is far better to grasp the universe as it really is than to persist in delusion, however satisfying and reassuring. See, it's about seeing the truth. And then once you see the truth, and you traffic in truth, and that is the narrow path, you've chosen it. It is the house built on stone, and it is the tree of great fruit, of good fruit. Then in this fairy tale-like way, we recognize the idyllic nature of what's always been present and what's absolutely within us. We just have to exercise that soul muscle. We have to choose it, be proactive, lead with it. And even as Rome is burning, as the world is just burning down around us, recognize that's the wide gate, that is the tree of bad fruit, and that is the house built upon sand. And of course it's going to crumble. And at some point, I am not claiming to know when, at some point, these two paths, these two trees, these two houses, these two worlds, these two lanes go two separate ways for eternity. That is what is known. It's been known and spoken about for 2,000 plus years. The when? Okay, question mark. However, the message is choose the right gate, the right tree, the right house. Choose your soul source connection. So, Astrology by Lauren. When planets are very close to the sun, they become overwhelmed by the light and no longer appear in the night sky. These planets are relegated to obscurity under the rays of the sun, which then only exist to serve him. But when they come to the very heart of the sun, something extraordinary happens. It's as if the planet is then admitted into the throne room, the very heart of the sun, where they briefly find favor with the monarch and become king for the day. So it is with retrograde Mercury this week, whose inferior conjunction with the sun perfects on Thursday, July 31st, drawing Mercury in Leo into the heart of the sun. When Mercury is exactly conjunct, that's a CAZIMI, the sun, while retrograde in the solar sign of Leo, it is time to get to the heart of the matter. This is when we come face to face with our most important and heartfelt priorities. When Mercury commenced its retrograde phase on July 18th, Astrology by Lauren posed the question, what do I want in my heart of hearts? What is standing in the way of my own and others' happiness? The inferior conjunction of Mercury is when we are asked to connect to the very core essence of these questions, connecting with what matters to us most. This is, what do we want out of life? And to astrologer Channy Nicholas, it's speak up, send the text, the email, make the call, say it. Speak your heart's truth. Go for what you want. And just make sure it's with the purity of intention, that it's pure. Because again, if it's illicit, it's built on a house of sand. It will collapse. Astrology by Lauren. This is the beginning of the new Mercury cycle, whose seeds are being sown in the middle of its retrograde phase, setting the tone for the next 4-month cycle of Mercury. It is during its retrograde phase that Mercury's outer effectiveness can often feel eclipsed. We miss appointments, signals get crossed, we forget things that we should already know. This is Mercury retrograde. I mean, happens. So it can be confounding, but it is also when its inner essential nature is at its height. Since July 18th, we have been reflecting on past events, making sense of and processing our lives. The subtle and sometimes not so subtle insights that Mercury brings at the inferior conjunction are not only significant, but important for our inner awareness, growth, and development. This is how we learn. This is how we develop things like wisdom and understanding. But because many of these insights are subtle, we could easily miss them. So, to make the most of the transit of Mercury, we need to lean into the retrograde, turn down some of the noise and the chatter of the outside world, and go within. It's the well at that house in the main image. Deep dive into the well. On Wednesday, July 30th, the Centaur Chiron stations retrograde at 27 degrees Aries, 10 arc minutes. When planets appear to station, as Chiron will this week, and Chiron's the wounded healer, they will often make their presence known. This can be true for centaurs as well. They feel stronger. They let us know they are there. During the retrograde phase, when they appear to be retreating through the zodiac, we use this time to internalize and process the qualities of the planet, or centaur in this case. Chiron will remain in its retrograde phase through January 2nd of 2026. Originating from the Kuiper Belt just outside our solar system, centaurs are like visitors from beyond. They bring messages of truth and wisdom that, when heeded, can aid us in our own evolutionary growth. It's when we listen. So it's going to be brought to us. We're going to have full awareness of what is wounded, what is in need of healing within us, within our societies, our relationships. So it's going to be brought forward. And Chiron is here to remind us that one of the casualties of the human experience is this constant reminder of our vulnerability and the reality of our suffering here in existence. With a lifelong existential wound, the mythological centaur, Chiron, sought his own healing. And what he found in the process was a profound acceptance and understanding. The Chironic 5-month retrograde phase is a time of year in which we are asked to pay attention to our own healing journey. Memories surface, old wounds reopen, and we come face to face with what needs healing, forgiving, and releasing. The retrograde phase of our Chiron compels us to look within, to the very root of what ails us, to the inception and cause. This is when we are most able to do a lot of this inner work. Know that it is often complex and not easy. So this is about facing the truth, facing ourselves, harnessing the energy, the power of the shadow, of the wounds, to heal, to transcend, to refine ourselves, not define ourselves, to let go, to make new scripts, new stories, new truths, meaning the truths, that we let go of what has been obstructing us, that is stagnant. It means this is Astrology by Lauren, it means raking things up from the past, reliving old traumas, confronting our own doubts and insecurities. One advantage of Chiron being in Aries is that it brings the courage and the motivation to clear out the dungeons, confront the dragons in their caves, and cast out the demons, allowing us to move freely into the future with a much lighter load. See, this is going to be liberating. When we do the works, yes, it can be terrifying and scary. However, it releases us. It's like you walk through the fire. We've talked about this before. Once you walk through the fire, once you face it and you do it, and you get to the other side of it, I guarantee you there will be a moment where you have this epiphany of, you say to yourself, why did I wait so long? Now, everything's a process, so there is no, right, wrongs, or indifference. But the moral of the story is when we walk through the fire, when we face our shadow, what awaits us on the other side is this lighter load, this liberation. Astrology by Lauren. Combined with this week's inferior conjunction of Mercury, we are in an even better position to do this work. Doing this chironic work over the next 5 months can be incredibly liberating. And because it is in Aries, can even help us to write new scripts, paving the way for a whole new and hopefully healthier beginning. Fragmented realities, it breaks apart the illusions and the mess and the delusion and all these old stories and scripts and labels and masks and identities. It just shatters them. And what emerges, it's the caterpillar to the butterfly. It's something so much greater, lighter, and authentic, true. Astrology by Lauren concludes, welcome Tony. She concludes with a quote from Brennan Manning. In a futile attempt to erase our past, we deprive the community of our healing gift. When we conceal our wounds out of fear and shame, our inner darkness can neither be illuminated nor become a light for others. This is about put your stuff out on the front porch. Own it. Own, atone, release. Because when we conceal our wounds out of fear and shame, our inner darkness can neither be illuminated nor become a light for others. We lead by example. The truth speaks for itself. The shadow aspects are purposeful. They're here for us. So allow that darkness, air quotes, darkness or inner darkness, to be illuminated, to be a light, to become a light for others. As we move, number 4 from the unseen is peak performance. And peak performance is about operating at the highest possible level of ability in a given task or activity. It's about maximizing potential. It encompasses physical, cognitive, and emotional well-being, not just isolated skills, meaning it's not just doing things, it's being invested and embodied with them. And it's about consistency. So number 4 from the unseen, peak performance. And then they said, put on your game face. Game face. Having your game face on means to adopt a serious and determined expression, usually in preparation for a challenging situation or competition. It signifies a shift in mindset to focus on achieving a goal with resolve and intensity. It's about readiness. So this is about peak performance. When we're aligned with our soul source connection, we're in the flow, green lights, that's peak performance. It's foundational. It's number 4. And then it's about putting on your game face. It's like readiness, this resolve and intensity to meet the challenge, to meet the opportunity, to succeed in these choices, these actions that liberate us, that break the fragmented realities. It just shatters the illusions and the deceptions. And what emerges is the purity, the core essence, the purity of our soul. That's what leads. That's what remains. So let me go to number 5 from the unseen, and 5 is about change, is the trifecta effect. Things are going to happen in threes. They gave us 3 aspects for the astrological influences. They've given us 3 previous shows. The numbers are the 30 and the 10. So things are going to happen in threes, and a trifecta effect is a run of 3 wins or grand events, a situation in which you achieve 3 things, a group, set, or series of 3, or forecasting the first 3 finishers or winners in a race in the correct order. Expect things, and this is an old idiom, and that things happen in threes. The unseen is saying, it's number 5 from the unseen, trifecta effect. Things are going to happen in threes. You may get a standing O. You may have a revelation that, it's a do not enter. Don't go there. Don't bring this with me. Let it go. Or it may be a hall of mirrors. to recognize when is this an illusion, a deception, and when is it real. Number 6 is twin gates, and this comes from a show 2 or 3 shows ago. This image, and let me just show it to you. Twin gates, twin gateways. The Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building. Both reside in Manhattan. The spire on the Empire State Building is 222 feet high. The Leo new moon was the sun and the moon were together at 2 degrees. They were opposite Pluto at 2 degrees, 222. This twin gates, twin gateways. The twin towers meaning 2 towers. It's also the moon card. There are 2 towers in the moon card. They represent the number 11, the most intuitive master number. They represent a gateway, a way to, a way through. And so number 6, denoting spirit and service from the unseen, they said, twin gates, twin gateways, walk on through with an exclamation point. So this is about, remember, we're emerging into this new. They're saying, here's these gateways, these twin gateways, these twin gates, walk on through, move through. Why? Because what's on offer, it's number 7 from the unseen. And they said, masterclass, masterpiece theater. Masterclass, class taught by a highly skilled expert. Masterpiece theater, high quality British television brought to America. But it's high quality production. It's this, and so they're saying to us, the unseen is saying to us, and 7 denotes both the foundation and fulfillment of God's word. It's also magic, awe, wonder, this trifecta, like what happens in 3s. And so, again, we are being called to shine our light, our divine light, our soul light. That is the new. It will be either an extension, an elaboration, an expansion, or a complete inverse of where you've been. It will be that deep calling, that deep knowing, I've always known I was meant to do X, Y, Z. And then it's about small steps, small acts in great ways, aligning that so that in this matriarchal Aquarian age, that is what comes to the fore. That is what leads. And thus, it's a masterclass in evolution, ascension. It's a masterclass in the fact that what is coming through you from source, from the divine, is brought out to bear, is brought to the fore, so that it's a masterclass. You're an expert, a highly skilled expert, radiating, teaching, demonstrating. It's not ego, mind, personality. It's the purity of that in service to this, your soul, this masterclass. And the Masterpiece Theater is bringing this high quality, British television, but high quality show, act to peoples, to the world, and how that influences. And I just want to conclude with, this is Juliana McCarthy, astrologer Juliana McCarthy from etherealculture.com. She's speaking about the Leo new moon that just happened days ago. Dignity plus humor prevail through dark storms. A Leo new moon arrives on Thursday. This was last Thursday, so 6 days ago, standing opposite shadowy Pluto while squaring wounded Chiron in Aries. In the background, Mercury retrograde draws us into a liminal space where magic stirs and unresolved threads from the past return for review. The color purple, the master weaver, revealed, re-examined. We're looking at this. It's bringing the past, for review, coming into for review. Intensity abounds as secrets, buried truths, and unhealed wounds rise to the surface for reckoning. This reconciliation, but a reckoning. Abuses of power come to light, along with anything blocking joy or stifling healthy expressions of pleasure, courage, humor, and creativity. What this new moon asks us to transform will take effort and likely some measure of pain or sacrifice. It's not yet time for bold leaps, but rather for revision, reflection, and the quiet work of facing what has been denied. And so again, with the Leo new moon, and then here's the Mercury in the heart of the sun, So there's, again, discernment, because these two would seem to be opposing, and yet they're not. They're in harmony with one another. So we're speaking about not time for bold leaps, and yet Mercury in the Sun in Leo is saying, make the call, right? Speak now or forever hold your peace. These types of things. Send the text, the email, whatever it may, make the phone call, that type of thing. Etherealculture.com. When we return toward the shadow and embrace it, we unlock a deeper well of creative power and resilience. These have not been easy times. We're in the midst of profound catalytic change. It's essential to stay anchored, to channel our deepest feelings into expression, and to bring humor to the heaviness we're moving through. True confidence is an ally now. Even when we feel overwhelmed or defeated, we can sit tall, imagine a crown on our head, and relax into our innate dignity or divinity. The lion is the actor, reminding us to embody the role fully. We can show up with open hearts, rolling our shoulders back and lifting our heads high until the tides recede, no matter how we feel. Through the storms, we can keep a glimmer of faith burning that we're becoming truer, stronger versions of ourselves, slowly meeting the world's challenges and, in time, prevailing. May we summon all the strength, vigilance, and good spirits we can to meet these planetary demands for purgation and rapid evolution. Coming full circle, we're ready to advance. On this Leo new moon, may we stand rooted in courage, even in the face of our shadows and deepest fears. May we trust the pain of transformation, finding moments of joy and humor within the scariest storms. It was John F. Kennedy, I believe, that said, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Fear is energy. Love is energy. Hope is energy. Everything is energy. So once we recognize that, we come to terms with that, we neutralize that, then we are able to see, we're able to pierce through the illusion of the fear to ask ourselves, what am I afraid of? What is it? What is it that I know my soul is asking me to do? And then we surrender. Simply surrender to yourself, not another, but to yourself, and take the necessary steps, baby steps. They can be small steps in great ways that lead to massive transformation. The point is that you're doing the works, you're walking the talk, you're choosing the narrow gate, the treat with beautiful fruit, good fruit, and that your house, your soul house, is built upon stone. There's a foundation for all of this. The rest of it, the color purple, harness it, because the master weaver is being revealed and re-examined. You're going to awaken within. So the soul emerges, comes to the fore, or re-emerges, depending on where you are on your journey. It's about peak performance, operating at optimal, maximum ability and connectivity with source, with soul. So put your game face on. It's going to come in a trifecta effect. It's going to come in threes. There'll be standing O's. There'll be a hall of mirrors. There'll be do not enter. So reconcile with each of them, recognize them, discernment, utilize discernment. And these twin gates, twin gateways, walk on through. Because you are the master class. You are the masterpiece theater. You are what you have been waiting for. What you have always dreamt and wanted all your life. You are it. We are it. And so while Rome burns, while the world is crumbling down, the old is those houses, the wide gate, the bad fruit tree, and the house built on sand. While it all collapses and crumbles, walk on through. You'll be walking on through. You're on solid, steady ground. Why? Because you're choosing it. You're being proactive. You're choosing to be at the tip, not the tail cone. All right, that's everything. Action-packed. Thank you all for your comments, your presence, your energy, your joy, your support. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, comment. It helps the channel and the show. And I cannot wait to be with you all again next week. Again, we shift energies. August is going to be 8, so it's unite. And we will see what the unseen has in store for us. Until then, love you all, be well, and we will see you next week.